Blake, how many pounds did you gain at the beach this time?
When I wrote this, it was only 2, but now we're at 4.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who really should have looked at how many calories are in a Coco Lopez coconut cream. And I'm here with my co-host who has Coconut Lopez in his coffee every single morning, Toby Walters.
What is Coconut Lopez?
It is like, I think it's Coco Lopez. It is like the most delicious nectar from the gods. It's like if a coconut ran into a sugar truck and they exploded together.
I don't like coconut because of the texture, but I love the coconut flavor. So like,
Which makes me wonder if it's even really coconut flavor.
Well, fair enough. And I do, every morning I have my smoothie and coconut milk is the base. So it is, I love it. I'm bros addicted,
apparently,
as the Gen Z say.
Yeah, low key, apparently coconut milk is, not high calorie, but high key Coconut Lopez is extremely high calorie. I don't know if I'm using this right.
Well, I do coconut, specifically coconut milk that has no sugar added. So it's like literally just coconut milk. So it's supposed to be pretty dang healthy.
Does that give you high rizz? Is that what the effect?
I love we're doing these Gen Z terms. So you were recently at the beach. You went on vacation. Every now and then I give you a day off, even though I, beat you incessantly to get marketing done with no resources and no budget and no salary.
I didn't take a day off until we got through Philo. And then I ended up with a bunch of vacation in the back half of the year. So I'm off. I'm off for like 2 weeks in Christmas.
And you inevitably get up to nonsense when you go to the beach because that's your that's your personal brand is just nonsense. And the last time you went to the beach, you came back and you had gained 10 pounds.
10 pounds. 10 pounds.
And all of us are like, how is that humanly possible?
Brian started doing the math and it was basically just a bunch of calories.
Like 30,000 or something like that in
every
3
single
days.
Day. Yep. In 3 days. That's crazy.
That's insane. So you said specifically, Toby, something happened at the beach and I'd love to do the opening story.
I was wondering where you were going with this. Now I remember. Yeah, so I was going to be a hero and take all the beach stuff back to the condo and faster than anyone else and then help everyone else with their stuff. So this results in me just sprinting to the beach with my little wagon thinking I'm so awesome. And I get it up in the condo. I then turn back around to go be the hero and my wife is pissed. I turn around. She is like, "Where are the keys?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? When we go on trips, I like to hide stuff because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm in a place I've never been before. I got to make sure I don't lose it. I got to make sure it's not stolen. And did you know, Toby, that I think it's over 50% of squirrels, the nuts they hide, they turn into trees because they forget where they hid them. I forget things like this. So we look for the keys everywhere. And we're in Florida. I mean, Florida's a dangerous place. Florida man could get you at any moment.
Exactly.
I don't have the keys to my vehicle. We're stranded here.
Perfect.
We're going to die here. Now, my philosophy is the opposite of yours. In every problem, you can solve it if you just keep throwing money at it. Just keep throwing money. Just shovel that money into it. And so I just Googled break into my car for money. And I have a service that's
It's called a locksmith, by the way.
Yes. Look, you just got to get enough keywords to get you to the right spot. And they're about to come out and break into my car and get everything figured out. When my wife says she's found them, I left the keys on top of the vehicle. I didn't even hide them well. I must have left them there and said, all right, I'm going to the condo and forgot to relay that piece of information. And that's how I almost blew $400, but still pissed off my wife at the beach.
And so this is such a wah story to me because when I text you, I was asking specifically, how many pounds did you gain at the beach this time? And you were like, not that many, but boy, do I have a story for you that I want to do on the podcast. And it's about my keys. And I'm like, dear sweet Lord, let it be that Blake lost the keys in his own fat.
Oh my goodness. Even if I did, I would have been able to dig them out. Because, I am good at digging myself out of a problem. And speaking of someone else that's incredible at digging their way out of a problem, the production manager for Signature Production Group, show caller for Philo, and Todd Elliott's personal beard consultant, Max Brown, is here with us to help dig us out of some problems today. Welcome to the pod, Max.
How's it going, everybody?
So, Blake, we have joked many times that we need to do, a contest of best beard in church production.
I'm not joking. I want to.
I literally can't see the end of Max's.
Yeah, it's close there. There it is.
No, there it is. How long have you been working on that, Max?
I've had this beard for about 9 years now. Yeah, it gets. I have a special barber that I go to for it. It gets cleaned up and shaped on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm known pretty a decent amount of places by my beard.
Yeah.
So I can't get rid of it at this point.
And did you start growing it back when you were an extra on Game of Thrones? Is that the origin story?
Of course, yes.
What's fun is, 4 suites down from us in our building, actually a suite that we had looked at maybe getting into with church gear, ended up going to, it's called the Fabled Beard Company. And it's something you should totally look up. It's like a fascinating thing where they're like, it's kind of like if you took Dungeons and Dragons and then combined like male hair products and put them together. That's the Fabled Beard Company. It's just fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you could definitely be a model for them.
Yeah,
But
probably.
when you're not being a model, because being a model is not what this podcast is about.
I beg to differ. Look at me, Blake.
Wow.
Okay, move on. Don't
So I did
don't
just
comment.
look at Toby, and now I am permanently blind in both of my eyes. So how will I ever read the outline? Max, when you're not being a model, tell us, a bit about your production background. How did you get your start, and what led to your role today?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm a project manager for a company called Signature Production Group. We do corporate meetings and events all over the country. I got my start in production when I was actually in middle school. I started doing theater in middle school and high school, and did theater and did audio and then some lighting as well. And then in college, I did a little bit more and then ended up in Chicago and ended up working for Willow Creek Community Church for about 5.5 years as a technical director, and then moved through a couple of different places and landed where I am now. I used to be a systems engineer for Signature, and the project management side is a newer role for me.
Were you at Willow during Todd's era or post?
Toby, he's the one that evicted Todd, and he took his role.
Todd interviewed me for my position. When I started there, I was actually in Promised Land, so the children's ministry, as a technical director, and then moved through most of what they call the next gen ministries. So.
And do you have any secrets about Todd Elliott that we don't know? It was just his birthday yesterday. I know this podcast isn't going to come out,
till December of 2027.
Yeah, but any Todd secrets for us?
I just know that he really loves the yacht rock. So
I do
try
know
and
that
play
too.
it whenever I can.
I personally can't stand yacht rock, and so I give him.
What does that even mean?
It's a very specific era of music, kind of like soft pop rock from the late 70s, early 80s.
But did people only play it
speaking.
on yachts?
No, but I think, I don't know, maybe Max, you know the origin?
I think it's more of like it's. I don't know the full origin, but it's like music that you would play if you were on a yacht.
Yeah.
Like
It's aspirational music.
Sure.
You wish you were on a yacht.
Like there's Church Gear
Absolutely.
podcast music, there's yacht rock. It's all a category.
Gracious. Toby, go to the next question.
All right, Max. So this is kind of a unique thing in the production world. You often get started because you learn a skill. I would assume you got started in middle school. Where you, what discipline did you get started under?
Yeah, so I started with audio. Really wanted to know because it was back when there were lots of analog consoles, and I just wanted to know what all the buttons and knobs did.
Yeah.
That's where I started.
And so most production people, they start with a skill set. They start with audio like you did, lighting, video. And then, if you go into the touring world, you get paid a living to do audio, video, lighting. If you then go into professional ministry world, you get paid to do audio, but now all of a sudden you have to lead people, which you didn't build that skill set up. So, talk to us about that reality of being in a church production role and then having to learn how to lead people.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that has always been a love of mine and a passion of mine is actually teaching and equipping other people. And so one of the things, even when I was in high school, as I was a junior and senior in high school, a long time ago, I would go to the middle school and I would help teach those middle school students about audio and about lighting and those kinds of things. And so one of my biggest things has always been like, let me give away as much knowledge as I can, because that means that I need to get more knowledge in order to stay relevant. And so when I became a technical director at Willow Creek, one of my biggest things that I had to push for is taking my knowledge and giving it to the next generation of technicians. And so through that sort of led me down that leadership track of saying, oh, like you need to learn this, but like we should also talk about some of these softer skills of like, why are you doing what you're doing and those kinds of things, and moving into that leadership trajectory. So it was not it was just kind of a normal progression for me of saying we're here and we need to sort of bring you along. And so it's one of the things that I push for all the time is like when people ask me whether I'm on site for a show, or people will just give me a random text message or a phone call and they'll be like, hey, I'm not really understanding this. We'll have a conversation about like, well, let's figure this out and let's deepen that knowledge and bring some along with.
Did you feel like the teaching aspect, the people leadership aspect, that came natural to you, or did you have to really lean into it and work on it? Like, what ways did you build up that part of your skill set?
Yeah, so personally for me, it comes very natural to me to be able to teach. And so that leadership side has been, I haven't had to work as hard at really honing that side, because it's all about, for me, the way that I look at it is all about like loving thy neighbor. Like what God calls us to be is just taking that time and taking time with people in order to help bring them along.
Yeah.
So.
I know for Blake and I, it's been a unique journey here at Church Gear. So I have the advantage, Blake, of being the founder of the company. So then I ended up hiring people to lead others on my behalf. But as you are over the marketing and branding department, then you also have to lead people. And how did you feel about that journey for you, Blake?
Well, they say it's better to be feared than loved. And I said, why not both?
Why not both?
Just as Dwight Schrute says.
Exactly. Max, do you feel like, most churches, I think, default to, we need to hire somebody to lead production. So who understands how to execute production? Who's the best audio mixer? Who's the guy that understands lighting? Who's the girl that directs video? Should they reverse engineer and start thinking who understands just enough but knows how to lead and organize people? Which one is easier to start with?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I found in my time doing professional production is that when you start, you think, oh, I need to be the best mixer. Oh, I need to be the best lighting designer. Oh, I need to be the best video director. And like, I will get to the top of the world. Like, I'll get to the top of the industry by just being the absolute best person here. And in the secular world, when you're not in the church world, that is partially true. I think that there's a whole bunch of it where like being a good hang and being like an actual good person is also a very important part of that. But one of the things that I've found in my church production leadership time was that basically you think you're supposed to be like the best the best engineer, but what's actually gets you higher than being the best engineer is actually being a pastor to all of the other technicians that you work with. And so at some point, for me, I think that it's important to have knowledge about what you do, because I think that, especially in the church, as church production technicians, we're called to do everything. It's not just be an audio engineer. I mean, it's nice when you can find a place where it's like, I just need you to run this audio console. Yep. And this is going to be your full-time job. But for most church production people, it's, I need you to run this lighting or audio console, and oh, can you do the lighting, and oh, can you do the videos, and oh, hey, can you do these other welcome stuff and like shoot broadcast and all this other stuff. And so like there has to be a decent amount of skills, hard skills, in that. But then as you move and progress through your through your career, it's really important to start getting into those soft skills of how do I lead these people? How do I empower my volunteers to be able to learn more? And how do I help their growth trajectory become better? So I think it's a yes and, you know. I think that having someone doesn't have to have the leadership skills when they start, but they have to have that bend where it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to be the best technician that there is. It's like, you need to be the best technician that you can be, but then also you have to realize that you have to pastor to your people as well.
And I think one, you know, literally has a breaking point. You know, if you're the church production guy that's doing everything, eventually you will run out of you. You will simply
absolutely
reach the end of your capabilities, and you will burn out, you'll quit, you'll die. Hopefully you won't die. But, you know, with leadership, there is no limit. You replicate yourself, you teach others, you empower, and then you move on to the next. And you build and you build and you build, and then you can actually do everything. So, like, one literally has a cap, one does not. And do you think it's easier to learn the technical skills or to learn leadership?
I think it is. I think it is easier to learn the technical skills, to be honest. Leadership is such a personal thing. Like every single person has a different way of leading others, and so you can read books and you can talk to people and you can watch TED Talks or whatever you want to do. You can do all of those things, but you have to sort of amalgamate all of this different stuff into who you are as a leader.
Yeah.
And so it just takes longer. Whereas like if I need to figure out how to side chain a compressor on an audio console, I can go look that up really fast.
Yeah.
Well, Toby, with technical stuff, it's, all right, let me learn how to do this. Press this button, this thing happens. With people, it's, all right, I need to get them to do something.
Yep.
Press this button. Well, it didn't work. Well, because did you press the right number for their Enneagram, for their working genius, for their personality type? Like, it's a lot more nuanced, a lot more buttons.
Yep. I was having a conversation with a good buddy of mine, Nate, and he was interviewing at a church, and they had a part-time MD position, and that had been his background. He had led bands, he had MD'd at other churches, and he's like, that's my skill set. It's part-time, though. They're also hiring a full-time production director, but, like, I've never done that job. I'm not super technical, and I'm like, dude, you are the ideal candidate because you have years of experience of coordinating volunteers, building up teams, understanding how to put people in places and like think about the whole. And you know enough about production, like you're a musician. You know what an audio console is, you know what a lighting console is, and you're a leader of people. And so I just want to start encouraging churches, like maybe consider candidates that aren't the most technically proficient and consider candidates that are good leaders of people that understand what a production department has to execute week in and week out. Because like you said, it's easier to learn the skills than it is to learn the leadership and just prioritizing
Absolutely.
That. So give us some,
Hang on.
What? Okay. Here comes Blake.
Toby's personality type on the Enneagram, his 7, wing 8,
Squirrel.
makes him the challenger. So Max, I want you to weigh in even a little bit more on that. Like, I think philosophically, Toby's got a great point. But like when it really breaks down nuts and bolts time, does that work if you don't have a tech person that understands audio and lighting and video enough to do it themselves? Like if you can hire those roles, then yes, leader of people, great. If they're all volunteer, it feels like you could be in a bit of a bind. I'm curious if that philosophy works more or less depending upon how big the church is.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm definitely I would lean towards saying that, like, if you're in a smaller church, smaller volunteer base, smaller staff, it's definitely important to know, to be able to have the knowledge to be able to execute things, or be able to have a pool of people or contractors that can also help you. So I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say that it's not a possibility. I think you could have a smaller church, but like you also need to have, if you have someone who is just leadership focused and isn't as technically oriented, it's helpful to have a larger Rolodex for people that you can lean on to be able to help out in those places. And to be able to fit those gaps that are missing inside of the church. I mean, every once in a while I do get calls from different churches to come out and help when they're not able to really figure out something or it goes beyond their knowledge base. And I love doing it. I love coming out to churches and helping. But it is one of those things where in a smaller church with a smaller staff and a smaller volunteer base, I think it's really important to have the hard skills of being able to execute on a week-to-week basis, but then also learn those leadership values. Whereas when you are in a larger church where you've got multiple technicians that are on staff, then you can get more into the pastoring side of things and the leadership side of things a little bit easier. So.
Yeah, let's debate this, Blake. I like you. You wouldn't let me just gloss over it. So, Max, talking about Willow Creek specifically, one of the most intricate and just world-class productions inside a church, like in the last 50 years. And so you have guys like Scott Ragsdale and Yvonne mixing front of house that that's their world. They're world-class experts at that discipline. And then I'm sure you have other people leading that are coordinating people. They're building teams. They're gathering people. And so that's a wonderful place to be in. You put people specific seats that they're great at. But, Blake, we're talking, let's say a church of 700-800 people. They get to hire one person. And their systems are not nearly as complicated as Willow Creek's. I sure hope not. They should not have systems as complicated. So they've got a system that hopefully a good integrator put into place that if something goes wrong, they can call their integrator, get help, and they understand enough and they can learn enough that they can then also pull in a volunteer and say oh, you have just a technically tweaked mind, your mind goes that way. I want you to learn our audio system and understand it. And then you do that with somebody that can learn and understand your video system. I'm going to throw out there, I think you can build a much healthier team that way than if you hire one person who's just a production guy or a systems engineer and then tell them, now you need to build a healthy ministry team. I think that's a much harder discipline to get up to speed on than vice versa. Come on, Blake. You like to argue.
It's more that I think this is so nuanced. I'm almost Max, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing as we talk about this scale on a web page. If we had some perfect web page that was able to help a pastor who was making this decision, it's all right, the bigger the church goes, the further we go to this side, it's more leadership focus on this hiring process. But then, as you said, Max, and I totally agree, the further you get, the smaller it gets, the more they got to be technical. That's why, Toby, I think your proposition is even more fascinating, because I think it's pretty obvious, big or small, which direction you go. Then you move up to 700, it starts to get tougher.
What I'm saying is the smaller you go, the more you need leadership.
Oh, I'm saying the opposite.
No.
I think because the smaller they go, what good is leadership if you don't have the budget to hire any of those positions? That's really tough to put yourself at the mercy of volunteers.
Well, you can be at a church of 300 or 400 people and have volunteers that are, and Max, you're the expert on this podcast. They don't have to be, Corey Edwards, Lee Fields at front of house, but they might work in IT. They might be very technically minded. And so for them to learn the ins and outs of a digital audio console, they could read the manual in 8 hours. They might have the ear of Corey and Lee, but they'll understand what everything on that console does and how it works in a day.
Yeah, I would say the way I'm currently thinking about it is it's more of a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're in I like that. There is a job that you have to do every weekend, which is have some audio come out of some speakers, have some lights that turn on, and if you've got a video system, have some cameras go on a screen or have some graphics go on a screen. And so once those needs are able to be met on a regular basis, and you're not trying to the audio console didn't work this week because Dante wasn't happy, or that kind of thing. Once you get past that, then you can start building into that leadership, and you can start moving into that. So that's where I come from. When you're in a smaller church, I'll take Blake's side on this one, but when you're in a smaller church, you need to be able to build those needs. Those needs have to be met. Every weekend, it doesn't have to be perfect, but audio has to come out of a thing, lighting has to be turned on, and so if you're able to do that with the volunteer base that you already have, where you've got some amazing volunteers who understand and are knowledgeable about what they're doing or what they know how to do, then that allows you to think more of if we're going to hire a staff member, we should hire a staff member that pastors these people and is less technically savvy, and then be able to give them some resources, whether it's the integrator or a consultant or some local guys, to be able to move, to be able to, when things change inside the church, to be able to say, hey, this is where we're at, and this is where we want to go, and then bring in those more technical mindseted people to do that. But in the basis is that 52 weeks a year on a Sunday, every 7 days, the audio needs to turn on and work, the lighting needs to turn on and work, the video needs to do the same thing, So if it's a church that stuff ain't working, then they're probably going to need a person who's more technically oriented first before getting into a leadership position.
Blake, you got him to land on your side.
I think it's not even really sides. It's just, again, depending upon the size of
we're
church.
We're taking sides.
Oh
I'm getting fired up. Come on. Let's go.
Toby's internet polarized. I think just depending upon the size of the church and the volunteer team, all of these nozzles start making different equations, on this web page I'm seeing.
All right, Blake, so I've decided you're going to start one church, I'm going to start another, and then we're going to do it our own way and then see who's more successful. And I think we're both going to hell very quickly because...
I have a friend group where they said, let's start a cult and our religion can be cats and butter.
Butter.
That shows you that friend group's thought process.
And I'm going to have dogs and coconut milk.
There you go.
Yeah.
One of us will be fatter and happier, and that'll be me. Max, as you're, if you were going to give advice to a future tech that is they've been thriving in production, but then now they've been given this chance to do a more leadership role, what would you, or hang on.
You're not even doing the question.
I was trying to ask.
I got a different question. So
I was trying to ask the second question.
Know, your brain's
I looked
dumb.
at the wrong...
Well, Max, I want to ask you about some of your time at Willow Creek. Again, Willow Creek, world-class production level. What was your role there, and kind of how did you guys build some of your systems? What were some of the crazy moments? What were some of the really cool gear that you got to work with? Give us a little insider at that time.
Yeah, sure. So when I started at Willow, I worked for Promised Land, which is now called Willow Kids. I was on staff as a full-time technical director for the children's ministry, basically. And the way that the production department worked at that point was that basically the production team was basically like a company, and each of our ministries was basically a client. So we kind of had a company-client relationship with each of our ministries. So I didn't work for... Promised Land was my client. So the children's ministry was my client. And then if the whole production team needed to do something like the big 40th anniversary that we did at the United Center 10 years ago now, I guess it is. Yeah. Since they just did, at the time of this filming, they just did their 50th anniversary last weekend. But wow. So then I would be able to go with them and go take care of bigger events.
Yeah.
My main room my main client inside of Willow Kids was the 4th and 5th grade rooms, which was the first room that we did that we had a live band. So there was a worship team on stage leading worship for 4th and 5th graders in the in Promised Land, which is a super cool thing. We built it as sort of the building blocks of moving through. So like we would have middle school musicians and high school musicians on stage in that 4th and 5th grade room. That would allow us to sort of build their technique and help them become better musicians. And our technicians, our volunteers that were in those rooms, were also middle school and high school students. And there are some adults as well.
Yeah.
But then, so a lot of what we were doing in those rooms was we'd set up the weekend to be, when I first started, it was very much like we set up the weekend so that the people come in and then they just push a button, and then we move through the service, and then we do it 3 times. Normally I would be mixing audio because of my audio background, and it was a live band, and depending on the week, sometimes the band was good, sometimes the band was not as good. And so we had some different stuff in place so that if the band was not as good, we could make them sound better.
Yeah.
So I had, I think, some people think this is ridiculous, but I think it was 12 channels of tracks landing on my desk. So if the bassist just decided to just whiff it, I could just go whoosh,
yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just the bass, it was the track bass that was playing. Or the guitarist would have some issues, I could flip it to the tracks guitar. Mm-hmm. And so we could, so that we could sort of preserve what was happening in the room.
Yeah.
And then the music director would sort of come back around, and they'd have some conversations later and help them get better.
Yeah. Well, hold on
improve.
that. Like, this is a very fascinating thing, because I feel like this could translate to a lot of smaller churches that may have, I assume on Willow main stage in the auditorium, the level of musicianship is, again, world class. But if you're thinking of a church of 200 people, like, they don't always have the most world-class musicians. They might not have a drummer on Sunday mornings, a bass player. Like, talk to us about how it actually works. You have 12 different tracks, and then you also have live musicians on stage. I assume they have to be direct input so that you can switch them, and it still looks natural. Like, how could that translate to a church then pulling that off on a Sunday morning?
Yeah. So the way we basically worked it is like drums, of course, was live. Like, if drums is messed up, I can't really help.
Yeah.
Can't help that because that's loud.
Yeah.
And but like I would also have perk tracks or something like that where I could bring it in, and if the drummer was not doing as well on the keeping straight time, I could bring in a little bit of shaker or something like that.
Could you do it if it was electronic drum set?
You probably could, but I mean, you're going to start noticing pretty quick that
visually it's going to be disorienting, but
when the guy hits the snare and there's no snare sound, or if he doesn't hit the snare and there is one, it's kind of funky. So a lot of it is on like keys and bass and guitar. I personally, at this point in my career, I'm more about like, let's just let it be what it is. I mean, the people up on stage are making a joyful noise to the Lord. I had a pastor once who would stand in front of the congregation and say, if God has blessed you with a good voice, sing loud unto the Lord. And if God has not blessed you with a good voice, sing even louder so he has to hear it.
This is why Toby sings so loud.
I sing to the Lord.
Toby, no.
And so that's, and so like, I sometimes will go to churches and like the weekends are not great. Like the musicians are not as good, not as dialed in, and I'm just as happy there, enjoying that weekend as a church service where everybody is completely dialed and you've got contractors, like professional musicians who are on stage. It's beautiful both ways. And so if you want to go down that route and you want to have a perfect service every time, but you don't have the great musicians in order to pull that off, sending out stems from tracks is a great way to help that out.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so your role is specifically at Promised Land at Willow Creek, and that is extremely rare that you would have a full-time member of the production team specifically dedicated. How big was the team at that time? Ballpark.
I think we were, the total Willow production team, I think was like 20 to 30 people at that point. In Promised Land, there was a total of 4 technical directors. There was 2 part-timers and 2 full-timers. The 2 part-timers helped take care of some of the smaller rooms. So they would come in, load content on like a one day during the week, and then be there for the weekends kind of thing. And then the 2 full-timers would do some admin work, and then sort of oversee, like be in the meetings during the week, and then cascade that information down to everybody else. So, and then, I mean, when you're in the main auditorium, there's, when I was there was a front of house engineer, a monitor engineer, a broadcast audio engineer, video director, video engineer, lighting designer. You've got, Troy was there, show calling, and then you've got stage manager was also on staff there as well, scenic designer. So there was a decent amount of people. I think there was 12 or 14 people who were just in that main auditorium as staff members when I was there. So,
and then you got Dave Cook in the basement somewhere fixing some piece of gear and just grumbling like.
Absolutely, trying to keep all of the rest of everybody who understands some of the systems but doesn't see the global scope. Trying to make sure that everybody sort of keeps it in a line, because when something goes wrong, it's his head on the platter anyways at that time. So there was always tension to manage in that. When it was, especially in that system, because it's very much like there's a whole group of people who are just about making sure that the systems work. And us as technicians are always like, oh, let's troubleshoot this, let's figure this out. And it's like, we should really go through the team that puts in the system first in order to figure out how to make that work and to troubleshoot things. So that way, if there was a quick fix that was made, it would be documented so that when there needed to be another quick fix made, they would already know where things were at. So it's a great, it was an interesting team to be on, especially for how large it was, especially in a church. So, and I ended up moving up through I ended up getting promoted, changing roles, and ended up being in the middle school. So I graduated from 5th grade to 6th grade. Felt pretty good about myself. I know, right?
Blake's still waiting for promotion Sunday for himself.
Hey. Exactly. My boys are now 11th graders. They'll be graduating next year.
Oh,
wait a minute.
Are you going to start all over again, or?
Man, I don't know. There's one guy that did that. I don't know if I got it in me. I'm going to have to, maybe I'll go terrorize the tech department, actually.
Oh, there you go.
It's been 1 year so I can understand what I've been talking about for 200 episodes.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I started there, and then in middle school, we would also do retreats. So we would do a winter retreat and a summer retreat. And in those seasons, my job was mainly to take care of the weekend services and make sure the weekend services went off. And then would also help plan these weekend retreats as well. And as I went through my time in the middle school ministry, I started involving our high school students more and more in the design process of those retreats, because they're always like, we want more. Or I would have a technician who'd come to me and say, hey, I think I want to do this for a living. And I'd be like, ooh, we have to have other conversations now. And your weekend commitment just got harder because I'm going to treat you differently now because you want to do this for a living, not just for fun. And so by the time I transitioned off staff, my last thing that I did for Willow before I transitioned off staff was I actually did a weekend retreat, summer weekend retreat, and I had I never once stepped foot inside of the tech booth for the entire run of the weekend. I had high schoolers running lighting and audio, and I had them design the video systems, and I had a high schooler that was show calling the entire retreat, and it was pretty beautiful to like sort of bring that whole next generation of people up and to say like, hey, I need you to step this up and I want you to work on this. And to hear them say, yes, I'm there, it was pretty cool. And I've got people who I still, volunteers that were high schoolers back then, who will still get in contact with me and we'll talk, and we'll get together and we'll do events together sometimes, which is super fun.
Nice. So, having been part of one of the largest church production teams in the world, honestly, and talk to us about what are some things that make or break a production team? Like, what are some of the things that lead it to be a great and healthy team long term, and what are some of the things that will just keep it limping along or even destroy it?
Yeah, totally. I think for me, having been a part of teams of different sizes, where it's either a one-man army or a three-man army, or 30 or 40 people, I think there are some really important parts of what we do, mainly like being able to execute on a daily basis, a weekly basis, is just sort of the basis of what we do. One of the other things I try and do, and I've always tried to push myself, is how do I each week become 1% better in an area? So when I was, after I left Willow, I ended up at this church in Chicago called the Competence Church, down in Naperville. And I always tried to push of like, where is my 1% this week? Like, what can I push along just a little bit? We're not making major changes every week. We're just making little incremental efficiency changes in order to, through the course of a year, be able to be 50% better, or 52% better. So like that's one of the things that I really push myself on each one. But then the other thing is also to really dial in work-life balance. In the church, it is so easy to become so enamored with the ministry of what you're doing, which it is ministry. We can talk about some of my other thoughts on what we do as a ministry in the production world. But the thing is that it is also a job, and it is very easy for you to think, oh, because I'm working for a church, it's not a job, and I can just keep going and I can keep going, and without actually setting those boundaries of like, hey, when I walk away, unless the building's burning down, like I need my personal time, and I feel like earlier, like for the few years ago, it was a really big thing to be like, you're always on, you always have to help, like whenever there's an event in the church, we need someone there, we need people there. And I feel like more and more churches that I'm coming across are very much like, no, like we'll take care of it, just make sure that the microphone, like as soon as we flick the microphone on, it like just turns on. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. And being able to, unless the building's on fire or something's really not working, to be able to step away from work. And I think having that healthier space, especially in the church, and being able to take vacation and being able to get away is super important. And it's really easy in our jobs to feel like, oh, I can't get away because there's always something coming. There's always, we just got done. We just got done with Christmas. Now I can take a break. Oh no, Easter's 90 days away or something like that. We can't take a break there. And then we get to there. Oh, well, we've got, end of the school year coming. Oh, we've got some crazy stuff coming there. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm going to get to the summer. Now I can get some time off. Oh no, well, we need to do upgrades now because this is our time where we can upgrade things, and you just get in this cycle of never being able to take time off and never being able to take care of yourself. I mean, I travel a lot now for work, and I truly think about and I'm not the first one to say this, but on the plane they say put your mask on before helping others, and put your oxygen mask on before helping others, and I truly think that is an important part of what we do as church technicians as well. Like, we need to take care of ourselves first, to be completely honest. because if we aren't taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else, because then we just become the curmudgeon-y person who nobody really wants to ask for help, and then everything slowly starts falling by the wayside.
Toby, I love how he kept saying, if the church isn't on fire, like, take your personal time. Mm-hmm. I'm just imagining them actually calling Max and being like, the church is on fire. And he's like, what am I going to do about it? Yeah. Call the fire department.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
I'll shout out our friends at North Point Church. And
well, Toby, they're my friends, not your friends.
Fine. I'll shout out Blake's friends from North Point Church. North Point, one of the premier churches in the country. Like, they do everything at a super high level, but also from the top down, from Pastor Emily Stanley down, it's like, no, at 40 hours, like, you're done. Go home. If we have extra events, we will contract that out. We will hire extra help. You're not expected to work 80, 90 hours a week. Now, every church has seasons, like Christmas and Easter come, and I'm not saying every church tech works 80 or 90 hours a week, but sometimes you do, and you have those moments when you, like, for us, Philo is one of that moments. We know, like, Philo week is crazy, and we might die, but then we know, like, things will slow down, and there's not always a Philo every other week.
And 2 weeks later, I'll go to the beach and finally take my first vacation day of the year.
And gain 10 pounds.
Well, this year, hopefully going to be just 4. We'll see.
Max, I want to ask you, and you pose this question. I think it's a great question. Is church production art or is it science? And how do you raise up, a young generation of church production leaders and explain the difference of art and science when it comes to church production?
Yeah, totally. I love. I do think that, like, production in general is very much this sort of intersection of art and science, because there is science in what we do. When you put a speaker on a stand and it starts producing audio, that is there is physics in play. That is literal science. When you start tuning a line array PA system, there is science there. You are working with physics in order to get what your desired things are. But then there's also art. Let's take, for example, when you are getting ready to bring someone out on stage or call someone out on stage, you can basically say, you wait for that moment, that exact moment when you say, and now, take it at this point. If someone, you're reading the room, you're feeling these things, and that's the art of what we do. You can't say, at 2.7 seconds into this applause moment, I need to send this person, because that's not science. Yeah. That's the art side. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of what we do, especially on a weekend, I used to say this when I was doing middle school ministry, when I started bringing in high school show callers for the weekends. I said my entire job on the weekend can be whittled down to a checklist and feeling the moment. And the checklist is the science things, and feeling the moment is the art stuff, And it's like, how long do you wait to the end of this video before you tell the lighting guy to bring up his lights and this stuff? And so I said, I can teach anybody how to do a checklist, because I can just give them a checklist and be like, do the thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple. But then it's also this, you can sit next to me and I can show you the feeling that we get to, where I then take this moment where now I'll say we should do this, and those timing things. I think one of the places where we sometimes go wrong, or where I see technicians go wrong, is where they think that things that are science are actually art. So they're like, I'm going to take this speaker and I'm going to put another speaker right next to it, and I'm going to point them the same way so it's twice as loud.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that actually is not how that works.
Yeah.
Because now you've made a whole bunch of
Blake would think
science
that's
mistakes.
How it works.
2 plus 2 is more than 1.
But when you put 2 on top of 2, then now you have 0.
Yeah.
We had multiple pods today. I skipped lunch, so I think my brain's currently eating itself rather than the beach fat, so I'm not really comprehending.
Yeah, you have competing waves that are now canceling each other out. It's called phasing.
Like when the waves at the beach hit each other. It all makes sense now.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's fun, Max, because if you think of the worship ministry, like that is art. And you can't really deny that's art. If you think of like IT, that is science. But the production ministry kind of sits in between that world of like, you are both, and you get to do both any given day. And it's almost like blending the two. And like you're saying, you can't just put two speakers next to each other and call it art. Like science gets involved. So it's a very unique brain space to live in where you get to kind of do both disciplines at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is, and it is fun to teach the science and also teach the art.
Yeah.
That's where I like to be. And there can sometimes be, understanding how the systems work and all that stuff. You can sometimes come up with some different ways of doing things, but also knowing, like, having that background in the science and understanding how to respect what's going on there allows you to really make the most of what you've got.
Blake, bring us home, buddy.
Well, home is where the heart is. And my heart is in the tech takeaway section because I just, my heart gets bigger with everyone that I hear.
Just watching you round the bases on this, segue. It's cute to watch your little...
Toby, I would break both of my ankles if I was trying to round the bases.
That's a good point.
But even with some broken ankles, I could still crawl my way to the tech way, which is what I'm trying to do presently. So, Max, give us your unique piece of advice to a room full of techs that maybe might even fix Toby over here.
Wow. So I would say one of the things that I like to talk about, besides art and science in the production world, is mainly what do you like to do as, or what does the church call you to do in your production department? Now, every single production department is different. Every single production team is different. I think that this is a church-based. Each church has a different place. A great friend of mine and I were talking a while back, and we were talking about this idea of, is your production department a transformational department or is it a transactional department? A transactional department is more of like what you would think of as like janitorial services. They come in and they will sweep the floor and they'll mop and clean the sinks and all that stuff. And that's more transactional in nature, There's nobody's coming to Christ because the sinks are clean, Now some people may argue with me on that, but but then there's also transformational departments and transformational ministries. When you look at something like the evangelism ministry in a church, that is that's a big part of how the church reaps the harvest. And you would never think of an evangelism department or a discipleship department as the same thing as a janitorial department. They're two separate things. And in production, we can be classified as either, and I think that you can be a transactional ministry where there's a lot of churches out there where, they hire guns for everything, and it's literally like you walk in, you mix your audio for the weekend, and then you leave, and you get a paycheck, and nobody really cares about who you are as a person. Or what's going on in your life or anything like that. You just walk in, do your thing, and leave. That's a transactional department, which is perfectly fine. It's a way to run things. But then there's also a transformational department where it's you come in, you mix, and then there's a lot of conversations of talking about like, how are you? What are we doing? Why are we doing what we're doing? And we bring home this space of I'm here for more than just what I can push my faders on. Kind of getting back to what we were talking about before with leadership and whether we should hire a leader, someone who's more leadership bent versus a technician. You know, it kind of is in this transformational space. And I think that the way that you look at your church, or the way that the church looks at the production department, has to really come from them, you know? And so I would say whenever I have been a leader at a church, I've always tried to push for a transformational styled space, a transformational styled department. I want to make sure that I'm building into people. It's the harder way. It really is, because when you're transactional, you just hire the best audio engineer you can find, and they do work. And if they aren't good enough, then you find another person, you know? And it's very cut and dry, ones and zeros. But I love building in that transformational space, because that means that you're able to, it's no longer black and white. It is a lot of gray, and you're able to help. You're able to sit in the messiness with people, and you're able to build better product, I feel, in the end.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, Max,
that's my takeaway.
Man, we appreciate that. That's a really insightful one, and it's a unique one. You know, we've asked for a lot of these, so I really appreciate getting a different one. Man, if you have anything you want to point people towards, anything you want to, what's it called? Plug. There we go.
Yeah.
Anywhere you want to point people towards?
Yeah, I'm currently I work for a company called Signature Production Group. We're pretty cool. We do have an Instagram. You can find us there. I have a personal Instagram as well. It's called The Bearded Vlog. I don't do much vlogging anymore, but I usually will try and post what I can. A lot of the shows that I do are, I'm under pretty strict NDAs and stuff like that, because we're doing corporate meetings, internal meetings. So there's usually just a lot of flying photos and pictures of my cheese cubes in the lounge. So, but yeah, I'm always there. Always up for if people have got questions, want to talk to me more. I'm just a normal person, so reach out. If you see me at Philo, come say hi. You can come ask. I sit next to the audio engineer, and you can ask me what I do with all the buttons that are in front of me.
Nice. Well, if you want to see Max's secret flying cheese photos, you know where to find them. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
Toby, as a former church janitor, I resent that that he said that was not a transformational department. Yeah. Clearly, he's never seen how transformational it can be when you take all the trash out of a building.
Yeah, or clean the toilets. I mean, if you're going to get saved, you don't want to do it on a dirty toilet.
Who is getting saved on the toilet?
I guarantee you somebody's been saved on the toilet.
Gracious. Well, I would like to save myself from this episode. Share it with a friend. Just tell them not to listen to the end.
I know, and I've definitely had worship moments on the toilet where I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
I need to wipe this podcast away from my memory.